Welcome to the second day of the Knowledge Summit. We are going to continue our sessions that cover all the subjects around this summit. The first session is about hunger is a logistical issue, not a food-related. We are going to host Esther Ndichu, the Managing Director of UPS Southern and East Africa, to address the issue of international hunger and fix the logistical approach of food distribution.
From the air, the dab is invisible, and then it slowly comes into focus. And the wide expanse of red dust looks like a terracotta platter dotted with black pepper. But as we draw closer, the specks glow, the color changes, and the bare platter fills. As we begin our descent, it becomes clear that the vast array of white, blue, and brown is actually a vast array of tents, row upon row. An area designated for 90,000 people is now home to nearly 500,000 people. We're talking about a city, an area the size of a city like Miami. But this is not a city in the conventional sense. This is Dadaab. Dadaab is the largest refugee camp in the world. And images from Dadaab were plastered in the news outlets during the Horn of Africa drought in 2011 and 2012, with these images of children suffering from acute malnutrition. See, that's the image many people have when we talk about global hunger. But hunger isn't just in refugee camps. Hunger is a global epidemic affecting communities in sub-Saharan Africa, in Asia, and even in the developed world. It's estimated that there are over 800 million hungry people in the world, and 18 million of those people live in cities in North America, Europe, and Australia. See, when most people talk about global hunger, they think that the problem is that there isn't enough food in the world. But the problem isn't the lack of food, because the absurd thing is that there actually is enough food in the world to feed the entire population. See, the problem isn't the lack of food. Hunger is a logistics problem. It is a problem of getting the available food to the people that need it most. It is a problem that affects all aspects of the supply chain. It includes the elements such as storage, transportation, packaging, international shipping, customs, things such as the road networks and tracking and visibility capabilities. It's estimated that about a third of the food produced in the world is wasted. Some of it rots in warehouses awaiting transportation to the market, while some of it rots at ports and border crossings awaiting customs clearance. And then some of it just rots in the field because the farmers do not think it's economically worth it for them to harvest it. In India, for example, 30% of the fruits and vegetables that are harvested rot before they get to the people that need them most because they lack proper cold storage facilities. And every year, farmers in sub-Saharan Africa lose 30 to 40% of their crops after harvesting to insects, rodents, rain, and mold. In Africa, it's estimated that the food that goes to waste could feed up to 49 million people, which I think is a shame. But you see, to me, this is not just about statistics. I was born and raised in Kenya, a country where agriculture is the backbone of a very diverse and bustling economy. But people still go hungry there, and food rots in the farms because farmers just don't have access to a proper supply chain to get their surpluses to the market. And I got to see this firsthand growing up on my uncle's farm, where they would end up feeding the cabbages to the cows or let it rot in the field because they weren't able to sell it or to get it to the markets. And the sad thing was, they actually needed that additional income to supplement their dietary needs and also meet all their other cover their other household expenses. Fortunately, there are some solutions that are being worked on and implemented to solve some of these problems. I happen to work for a very good organization, UPS, Um, at my job at UPS, a global logistics company, I have the opportunity to work with non-governmental organizations to strengthen their supply chains. We fund different supply chain initiatives and also offer our expertise as a leading logistics provider. And we also support these organizations during disasters to get much-needed supplies out to the disaster zones. And I believe that the opportunity for us to be able to make a difference through logistics is as numerous as the number of hungry people in the world. See, the key areas that we focus on are getting food to the market, coming up with better storage facilities, and using our influence as a leading logistics company to encourage trade in emerging countries, both on a local and a regional level. And last but not least, using technology to address what we call the last mile problem. So for example, this year we've been working with the World Food Programme on a project in Uganda to provide farmers with better storage facilities. Historically, the farmers used to use traditional granaries. That is what would be considered a traditional warehouse in a village in Uganda. And then they'd also use gunny sacks, similar to that. But then that meant that their grains were exposed to insects, rain, and all other weather elements. Through our funds to the World Food Programme, we've been able to provide the farmers with more durable silos, such as the ones on the screen, made up of metal and plastic. The results from this project have been amazing. The farmers have been able to decrease their loss by about 98%, which I think is phenomenal. There's another project I'd like to talk to you about, which I think addresses or provides a solution to a very simple transportation problem. Purchase for Progress, which is another World Food Programme initiative, provides small-scale farmers with access to markets for them to sell their surplus produce. Farmers in the Democratic Republic of Congo received bicycles. We like to call them cargo bikes. In the past, the women had to carry sacks weighing over 100 pounds on their bare backs to get the produce to the market. Today, with cargo bikes, the women are able to carry more to the markets, get there faster, and also access further markets too. I'm sure some of the folks in IE would have something to do about the utilization of that bicycle, but nonetheless, through the cargo bikes, these farmers are now able to take their surplus produce to the market, sell it, and with the money, buy additional food to supplement their dietary needs. For example, Marion here is able to sell her surplus corn or maize, and with the money can be able to buy tomatoes, carrots, bananas, fruits to feed her children. And in addition to that, the bicycles also give these farmers access to markets that they would never have been able to get to before. And the trickle effect of that is tremendous. Because when assistant farmers have access to markets to sell their surplus, local trade increases. In addition to that, the farmers are also able to break the poverty cycle. See, cash is not the only thing that the private sector has access to. We also have access to innovation and technology that gives us our competitive edge. And I believe that we can use that same technology in the fight against hunger. Now, I welcome you to come with me to Mauritania, where we're implementing a solution, the Relief Link, a last-mile tracking solution. And I'd like to introduce you to Davis. Davis is a registration officer in the Beira camp in Mauritania. The Beira camp is host to about 40,000 refugees from Mali. Davis was very excited to implement the Relief Link solution because he was convinced that there just had to be an innovative solution to help in the distribution of aid in the camp. And even though the Beira camp only hosts 40,000 people, the challenges of food distribution here are just as daunting as the challenges faced by those that work in Dadaab. Historically, when the refugees showed up in Beira, they would be given a paper punch card, which would be utilized during the food distribution. It was a very long and manual process for both the refugees and also the UNHCR or UN High Commission refugees staff members working in the camp. In addition to that, it was very easy for the cards to get lost and damaged. And it was difficult to track who got what or whether there was an equitable distribution of the food to the actual refugees in this camp. Today, when the refugees register in the camp, they all receive a smart card with a barcode. And the barcode contains all their information. And I'm not just talking about names. No, it's the names and all vital information that's associated with that family, and also the facial recognition. And today, Davis and his crew are able to actually go through the food distribution using a simple handheld device like this. And the results have been tremendous. So not only are they able to finish the food distribution faster, and it's more efficient and accurate, but it makes a big difference from the staff members' perspective. ReliefLink was born from a proprietary software that UPS owns and was used during the Haiti earthquake. Davis today likes to say that after ReliefLink, my life has changed. We used to have to carry 25 laptops to the field, carry a whole bunch of folders and papers that we had to keep track of during the distribution. The change is amazing, because today not only are we able to create reports, but we're also able to finish the distribution faster, which gives us time to do other things in the camp, which I think is a great testimony from a user. ReliefLink is also being tested in the Doloado camp in Ethiopia. And our hope is that it will be used in camps, large camps like Dadaab, and also to support larger emergencies in the world. See, I think if we focus on solutions similar to these that I've just gone over today, we can be able to get food to those that need it most. And I think the best way for us to be able to do this is by forging public-private partnerships between governments, non-governmental organizations, the private sector, and investing in supply chains. And if we do so, I think we can achieve zero hunger in our lifetime. Thank you.
Everybody. Yes, so you didn't come here to just watch a video. It is a talk. Yes, so my name is Esther Ndisho, and I am the Managing Director for UPS in Southern Africa and Eastern Africa. Now, it feels like a lifetime when I did this TED Talk, but it was only in 2015. And the reality is, 2015 was 4 years ago, and in 4 years, we are still not anywhere closer to solving the problem of world hunger. Do I still believe it is a logistics problem? Yes. Do I still believe that the public sector or the private sector has a contribution to make towards solving world hunger? Yes, I do. And what I'd like to do for the next couple of minutes is just take you through a couple of things or a couple of different programs and initiatives that have come up in this space that I believe are making a vast, vast contribution to addressing the world hunger crisis. So it is estimated in 2018, the numbers are still at about 128 million people are still hungry. And not just hungry, but do not have a meal at the end of the day. When we did the stats, it was about 800 million people which is 1 in 9 people in the world, do not have food in the world today. 120 of those are in severe crisis mode. What's the effect of that? So you're looking at children that are malnourished, children that are not able to go to school, communities that are not able to be productive members of society. So is it a crisis? Yet it is. And we are going to talk about it later in our session this afternoon on what's happening and what solutions we think are in place. But I just wanted to go over some of the things that the private sector is still doing in this space. So UPS, which is one of the largest logistics companies in the world, has a partnership with the World Food Program. And we've joined in the Zero Hunger fight. And some of the things we've done, I mentioned, as you saw in the video, we've worked in different programs in Dadaab, we've worked with them in programs in DRC. But above and beyond that, it's about bringing our logistics capabilities and expertise to help them address this crisis. Why? Why is it important to us? You know, UPS has operations in over 220 countries and territories in the world. These are communities where we either have people from those countries, we have a customer base, we have a supplier base, and it is the right thing for us to do. So at any given time of the year, we have folks that are on loan at the World Food Program operations, either in Rome or out in the stations, offering our logistics capabilities and strengths. Now, when I look at what else is being done, so during my talk in 2016, one of the things I brought up was the fact that the last mile is a crisis. We are not able to get either food out to people that need it most, so the recipients, but in addition to that, we're not able to get the food out from the farms to the markets. And even if we do, the access that the farmers have does not give them capabilities to get the best price for their products. So I came across a company the other day that was of great interest to me. If anything, when I met with the CEO, I told him he took my talk and he put it into action. So Twiga Foods is a company that was started off in Kenya. And the CEO and the founder of the organization was actually the managing director of Coca-Cola. So as you guys know, anywhere in the world, you go to a war-torn area, you go to a drought area, you go to the desert, you will find a Coca-Cola. Which then means that Coke has been able to crack it, right? So they know how to get down to the village, they know how to get down to the desert. So Peter decided to take that knowledge and start a company that matches farms with vendors in urban areas. So they have an application, they're able to go out, vet the farmers, look at the farm that they have, look at the product and whether the product is of good quality or not. They're also able to match the farmers with financing and technical assistance for them to be able to upgrade the product that they produce. And through the portal, they then match the farmers with vendors in the urban centers. So what does this do? It not only gives farmers who did not have access. Now, going back to my talk, I talk about access to markets. This product now allows farmers to have access to markets that they would never have had to. It allows them to have access to funding that they would typically have not had access to. But in addition to that, when you trickle down to the recipients on the other end, the vendors now have access to product faster. It's been the quality control has been verified by the Twiga Foods folks, and it's cheaper. So whereas folks would not have had access to your sweet potatoes, your mangoes, or whatever, and the quality of product they would have gotten would probably have been substandard, they now are able to access better quality product. So when you talk about being able to address the access to markets, Twiga Foods is an example of a company that's able to do that. Now, I'm not here to advertise for them, but I'll just ask you to go back and look at some of the stuff that they're doing for those of you that are in the food security space. Another example I'd like to bring up is Wet Farm. Wet Farm allows farmers to be able to access information on whether it's weather conditions, farming conditions, and allow them to be able to upskill, and allows them to upskill them and give them information that the others wouldn't be able to. So when I think about Africa, for instance, the cable companies and the telecom companies have been able to penetrate markets that other companies have not been able to. So today when I go to the village, my aunt, who probably cannot speak English, has a cell phone, and she can send her text message. So today, my aunt's farm help can be able to go online and send a message and ask questions regarding whether it's weather conditions, diseases that are going on with their produce, and get that information back. That's just one other example that's out there. And we talk about what can the private sector do? Private sector can offer a lot. We have the expertise, we have the capabilities, we have the people. And when we talk about the fight for hunger, what can we offer? It's exactly that. So I'll give you another example. In my video, you saw a picture of gunny sacks and the storage of corn. Corn is a staple in most places. Farmers are able to sell it to either the village, the community in the village, and there's multiple uses for it. But mainly, it would be either boil it as a maize itself or as a corn itself, or ground it and make flour. And the flour can be used for porridge or for pap or whatever other staple meals that folks use. There is a partnership that has found a way to be able to use the science and technology, take the same corn that would have just been standard grade corn and fortify it and allow farmers to be able to ground that corn and come up with much more nutritious produce on a local level. And what this does is that they're not necessarily relying on food distribution. These are capabilities that are down to the ground and is accessible to a lot more people. So once again, when we talk about what can we do, there's a lot more we can do. Are we about to crack the world hunger? Thank goodness the World Food Program has a target of 2030, because we're still 11 years out, which then means there's a clock. The clock is ticking. And I'm hoping that in the next 11 years, we shall be able to crack the world hunger crisis. Thank you. So I'd like to open it up. If anybody has got any questions for me, either related to the video or related to what we're doing in the private sector space to address the world hunger crisis.
Good morning. I'm Ali Hamad. I'm a volunteer in this summit, and I'm also a volunteer in the Emirates Red Crescent. Of course, there are great efforts in many countries. Some countries have great efforts in giving access to food in remote areas. Like, for example, UAE exerts a lot of efforts in getting food to Yemen, and in Bangladesh, for example, the Rohingya refugee camp, as well as many other areas such as Philippines. Even the peak of giving is that one of the people, the Emirati workers who had died during getting food to Philippines, who had fever and they passed away. So there are quite a lot of challenges and difficulties that we're going through. Is food, global food, we have quite a lot of food produced in the world. Is it enough to address or to cover all the food needs in the world? This is my first question. And the other question is, a lot of countries have a lot of food waste, such as the US, for example, Saudi Arabia. We don't want we can also say UAE if we want to be honest. So in Saudi Arabia, there are more than 10 charities for preserving food. So how do we utilize this overproduction or unneeded food to give it to the people in need? In the UAE, there are more than 5 associations for preserving food, the latest of which was the food bank in Dubai, and another project of the Red Crescent to preserve food, as well as many other associations. So there are multiple challenges, multiple efforts. How do we promote better partnerships? How do we get this food to people who are really in need? So this is my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you had a couple of questions. So is there enough food? And then just to sum it up, how do we avoid food wastage, and how do we get food from the countries that have more of it to those that don't? So is there enough food in the world? Actually, argue yes, there is. I'm going to challenge all of you. what did you have for breakfast? And how much food did you leave on your plate this morning? So is there enough? There is enough food. So my argument in my talk, and it's still my belief right now, is that it's not a question of whether there's enough food. It's about the access. And it's about ensuring that those that have it are able to get it to those that do not. But it goes beyond that. There is a financial component to it. So when we look at the number of hungry children, for instance, the numbers are somewhere in the range of those kids that are actually experiencing extensive malnutrition. It's going to cost us about $3 to $4 billion to be able to feed those children every year. So there is a financial component, which is where the countries that are able to come in handy. And not to say we keep getting away from, we don't want to get back to food for aid, but there is a place for food for aid. But then there's also a question of how do you use that aid to be able to get the food from the right places. So when I think about the traditional model, for instance, US would donate shipfuls of grains to Africa, to the Middle East. They still do that. But that model is changing. And what we're changing to is, why don't we go and buy locally? Why don't you buy from the farmers in that country? Because when you do that, you're giving them that financial empowerment as well. So when you talk about access, that's that. That's exactly it. But there's also a mental shift that needs to take place. So in one of my projects, I went on a trip to Nigeria to visit a couple of different projects related to the same topic. And the sad thing is that in certain parts of Nigeria, farmers are throwing out tomatoes every day. Now, let me just educate you a little bit about Nigeria. Not that I'm an expert, because I'm not from Nigeria, but almost in every meal that a Nigerian eats every day, there's tons of tomatoes that go into that meal, whether it's tomato paste or canned tomatoes, which means as a country, there is a need for tomatoes. But the reality is there's a market for imported tomato paste. So people want to go into a supermarket and buy imported tomato paste from Italy, imported tomato paste from wherever, right? From China. Wherever they're getting it from, but it's going to be imported, and that's what they want to have in their kitchen. There's a mental shift that says that we have enough tomatoes in Nigeria, and we now need to be able to make them suitable for the Nigerian market, and we also now need to make our folks, the guys that go to the supermarket, appreciate and want to buy that Nigerian product because of that ripple effect of the people in the community. So to answer your question, is there enough food? Yes, there is. Is it a question of access? Yes, and we need to be able to find ways to be able to create access to it. Thank you. I'm being given the timeout. How many minutes do I have? Like none. So, okay, fine. So I'm around. I'm here, and we're also going to be speaking this afternoon at a session at 2 o'clock. So please join us at 2 as well on the same topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther.